Good afternoon, evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the afternoon corner. My name is Jay on the United Consensus channel. So much going on, and I'm just an ugly guy with a camera. Excuse the hat, but I'm just a guy with a camera on YouTube, and I don't really have much of anything going on. But I wanted to point out that the whole thing that's going on with the Charlie Kirk thing, right? Is one of those, as they've said, another like JFK type situation, you know. And regardless of what side you're on, and where you stand, obviously, for most people that have at least two brain cells, at the very minimum, can see that there's something that's up, right? So if we go back on the timeline, okay, and Candace Owens and Baron Coleman and a few others are some of the ones that probably have. I mean, they've definitely got more info, right? They've got more. They're more familiar with all of this that's going on than I am. I'll just be quite honest. But I will say this. Looking back on the timeline, remember when we first found out? And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this about Blake Neff. Okay? And I've noticed on just about every clip that I've seen that he's just so dang forgetful. He is so forgetful. Oh, I don't remember where I was. I don't remember what I was doing. Well, we landed in Utah, but I don't remember where we went after that, right? He says stuff like that, and you're like, really? Because I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, the audience. You don't know me. And I can be a little forgetful sometimes. I'm getting a little older. I can tell you right now, almost, if not all, every traumatic experience I have gone through in my life, I remember to a T. Okay, I remember all the details. Well, okay, maybe not all the details, but I remember the majority of the details. I may not remember if it was, 10:37 a.m., but I remember that it was between 10:30 and 11, right? I remember where I was at. I remember what I was doing. I remember who was next to me, who was behind me, right? I was in a car wreck where there were two other people in the car. My now ex-girlfriend at the time and a friend of ours. And I remember she was driving. I was in the passenger seat. The friend was in the back. It was about 10:30 a.m. Okay, we were gonna go floating down the river. It was summertime. It was in June. We were on our way to the store to pick up some. I think a life jacket was what we were gonna go pick up, or something like that. I remember all that stuff, and that was 4 years ago. That was over 4 years ago. Okay, and Blake Neff can't remember. There's like so much that he can't remember from something that happened a year ago. He's already forgotten all that stuff, along with Frank Turek, and okay, well, I'm not as old as Frank Turek, okay, but I am older than Blake Neff, I think. And it's like these people just cannot. It's like they anticipate that they're going to have to take the stand and testify at some point in their lives in the future. Excuse me. That's what it feels like to me. And let me tell you, people know when something is up, right? Something is fishy about something. They may not know exactly why or how, but they know. And so looking at the timeline of the shooting, I remember, even I remember where I was when I found out about that Charlie Kirk had been, you know, sorry, I don't know what words are gonna, you know, throttle this video down or not, but I remember where I was when I found out about it. I was at work. One of the managers, not my manager, but one of the other managers of the other department, I guess you could say, came up to me and said, "Hey, did you hear that Charlie Kirk has been, you know what?" And I said no, because I don't. I think that's when. Okay, here's. I'll say this. Here's a detail that I don't remember for sure if I had seen it pop up on my newsfeed on my phone, or if he was the one who showed me initially. But if I remember correctly, he's the one that showed me initially. Okay, there is a situation where, you know, I didn't remember a detail. But then again, I wasn't there. Excuse me, I wasn't right there, right? So it wasn't like I was in the crowd. It wasn't like I was, you know, right next to him or anything else like that. But I can remember details of that day. I remember him showing me the video. It was unedited. It was, you know, and I remember seeing it. I remember feeling sick. I have a strong stomach, but I was kind of like, oh, you know, dude, why did you have to show me that? You know, like, I went outside to take a break. I was like, I got to get some air, you know? And that's how I saw it. That's how I remember, that day. Right. And then I started following the story and I was like, well, okay, you know, and then you hear about the, you know, Kash Patel showing up and a bunch of other little things like the guy that dropped his pants and he was walking around in his boxers saying, you know, I did it or we did it or something like that, right? And when I saw that, I'm like, this is such a psyop. This is such a stupid thing, right? I remember that. I remember the whole thing about Kash Patel, you know, with his, I think the jacket thing came out later, but that the FBI was like delayed or they were delaying their something, right? I remember hearing about that. I remember hearing about the crime scene being paved over, and that was like the biggest, like, whoa, dude, like, whoa, that never happens, right? That never happens in normal, how should I say it? In the normal peasant world that we live in, right? If it was you or me, if it was one of us commoners, that was involved in a situation like this, you know, if I had, you know, unalived somebody, and then I had, you know, put in a basketball court in my backyard or something like that, like, you know, the police would have never allowed that. And then to find out that the FBI and the Utah governor ordered that according to the contractors that did the work of the paving over, and saying that they, when they got there, 6 or 8 inches of dirt had been removed, right? All of these things. And then we see the memorial, which is more like it felt like a 4th of July show. And with the way, and I'm going to be careful, this is just my opinion of my perception. I am not saying that this is what she I'm not going to make that, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to make that like, how do I say this? It felt like she was celebrating her independence. There, I said it. It felt like. I'm not saying she was. It just felt like it. The merch sales. She seemed so sad, and then all of a sudden she's, you know, on a Zoom call within a day or two, or whatever it was, and talking, you know, just glowing, smile from ear to ear, glowing, talking about the merch. We killed it. Kind of a weird, and I'm that's the word she used, killed. We killed it on the merch sales. Okay. Then all of a sudden she becomes CEO of the place. And I'm starting to think, kind of like a Columbo episode, who's the one that's benefiting the most out of this situation? Right? Who's the one that's benefiting the most? I'm not saying she did it. Okay? I will never make that claim unless there's direct evidence in a court of law type of thing. Okay? I'm just going to say that. And then, of course, my timeline's a little... she said this at the memorial, but she said that she forgave Tyler Robinson. She's so sure that this guy was the one that killed Charlie Kirk even before... She's said that repeatedly. She's so that he's the one that killed him, right? And they've all said that, even though the trial hasn't even started. Okay, and I will admit, hey, video evidence, can look kind of compelling to begin with, but it doesn't always mean that that's the case, right? So with that being said. And I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he is. We haven't gone through the trial yet. But she immediately forgave him. She's in a hurry for the trial to go through, even though it's not her right as the judge. I forget his name, but the judge that did the recent pre-trial hearing says, well, and he's like, I'm not trying to explain this to you. It's not the right of the victim's family for a speedy trial. It's the right of the defendant. In this case, Tyler Robinson. It's his right to a speedy trial. It's not their right to somebody else's speedy trial, right? And then they're complaining about. Erica's complaining about Candace Owens. Meanwhile, there's all this stuff going on between, with Frank Turek and all the other men folk over there at TPUSA that are, they're talking kind of weird. They're well, I didn't say this, but I said, and oh, this, that, whatever, and oh, and and I don't remember, and I mean, just so many different things, and they sidestepped questions that are being put to them by, Baron Coleman and whoever else, and they're making a lot of noise, like they're worried about something. Same thing with Erica, like they're worried about something. Okay, if I wasn't worried about anything, I probably just wouldn't even talk about anything, right? They're worried about something, and I don't know what it is, right? I haven't put the case together. I'm not, and then they go and they talk about, well, that's not evidence. Well, yeah. During an investigation, it's an investigation is to collect the evidence. Now, yes, they have collected evidence on Tyler Robinson, but there's a lot of other stuff that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. So then what else? What else? Oh, yeah, Erica Kirk was so willing to forgive, immediately forgive Tyler Robinson, will not forgive Candace Owens, complains that Candace Owens is making money off of this, or claims that she's making money off of the story, while TPUSA was the ones that were making all this money off the merch, and she was talking about how they killed it with the merch sales, right? So you're not going to be, you're forgiving the murderer, the alleged murderer. You won't forgive somebody asking questions. And freedom of speech, by the way, which was something that Charlie Kirk campaigned for, or maybe campaign's not the right word, but was a huge proponent of freedom of speech. And even the t-shirt that he wore on that particular day. Freedom. Right? You don't have freedom without freedom of speech. Just to throw that out there. And they are having a problem with all these people exercising their freedom of speech. Rightfully or wrongfully, they are exercising it. And if you have nothing to hide, why are you up in arms? Why is it that, I forget his name, I apologize, but there's currently a lawsuit against Candace Owens from one of their members, one of the TPUSA members. There's a lawsuit against her right now, and it's like, what are you guys worried about? What are you guys worried about? If you're not guilty in any way, shape, or form, if you have nothing to do with this, then relax. Seriously, guys, relax. If these people that they say are idiots and evil and stupid and conspiracy theorists and everything else, if these people are wrong, honestly, the best thing to do is just let these people, let them dig their own graves, right? If you have nothing to hide, if you've got nothing to worry about, why are you so concerned? Why are you getting so offended? And I should say, why are you getting so defensive if you have nothing to hide? And I can understand defensiveness. Let's look at defensiveness from like a kind of a logical perspective. Let's say you're at work and they're a little trigger happy, right? And maybe you forgot to cross a T somewhere or dot an I, right? And they're the type of employer that will just fire you on the spot for any little mistake. I can understand defensiveness there, okay? But it still comes down to because you're worried that you did something wrong, right? And this is the same situation that's going on with TPUSA. That, well, where's the evidence for that? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's all over the internet. And it's not just from Candace. It's not just from Barron. It's from, there's a whole lot of people covering this. And I don't want to make my channel about it, but I have to admit, I'm really curious as to what's going on. And I think a lot of people are. And then there's a lot of other people that are, they're just like, it's like everybody got the memo, you know, everybody got some government memo that's like, oh, you know, when you do your show, talk about this or talk about that, right? I often wonder why some of these people have gone from zero to, you know, zero to 120, you know, in no time on their YouTube channels. They've gained all this following, and it's like, huh, who's behind that? Like, they must be line towers. They must be towing the line. Tim Pool was like, he used to ask questions, and now it's like, Tim, what the hell happened to you, man? Like, you must have got the memo. You must have got either, you know, you either got paid or you got a memo or something, right? Allegedly. All of this is allegedly, okay? All of this may or may not be, okay? I'm not really expecting this video to really go anywhere. It's just something that I wanted to put out there, and who knows, and whatnot. But, anywho, And I'm not monetized anyway, so I'm not going to get money off of this. I'm just, for anybody out there watching, I am really seriously saying this. I'm saying I'm curious about this, and I don't want just one person or a few people to be looking at this and to let this go if this is something more than what we see on the surface. Again, especially with all the questionable things that have happened, including paving over of the crime scene, and the SUV that they transported Charlie in to the hospital, getting auctioned off instead of putting in impound for evidence. All these things, there's so many things, but all of these things are just the bare bones of the unusualness, the strangeness of this case. The stuff that just normally doesn't get done in this manner in any other case. If it were you or I, if it were any of us peasants and commoners, this would never happen in real life, right? This isn't even one of those things you see on, true crime would be like, say what? Say what? I'm sorry, the crime scene was paved over? The SUV was auctioned? These guys don't remember where they were on the day that this stuff happened? Like, huh? Right? I don't know. Those are just musings, my musings of what I'm thinking and asking. Freedom of speech, First Amendment. I believe it applies the same way as any other amendment, or should, because as Charlie Kirk said at one point, we have a constitution for a reason, and I would say, and maybe he said this too, it's usually when we start to get away from the Constitution, and this is one of the things that my channel is really based on, is constitutionalism, right? I'm a constitutionalist. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. They both pick and choose what they follow on the Constitution. Every amendment, every right, I believe, stands. And as soon as we go away from that, as soon as we start trying to reinterpret stuff and whatever, that's how all the bad things that have happened. Same thing with with what happened with the. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but same thing that happened with slavery in this country, is that they interpreted it. Men have rights, but these guys that we're enslaving, they're not human. They're not men, right? That was kind of the thing that they used to go by at one point, that they acted like the black person was not human. That's how they interpreted that. And so because they interpreted it like that those beings, as the only way I could word it, that in the way that they were thinking, those beings or creatures were not human, therefore it was okay to not treat them like humans. That's why slavery happened, because obviously they added amendments to clarify, but the original Constitution should have applied to them just like it applies to us. But there had to be that clarification because people misinterpreted, just like so many other things. They try and reinterpret something to mean something else or sound like something else and use it for their own means, right? So anyway, this video is getting just a little bit longer than I like to have them, so I do want to thank everybody for watching. Check back from time to time if you find anything on this channel I'm trying to start posting stuff on various topics, so like and share, of course, is always appreciated, as well as if you have any thoughts on this, if you have any info, anything that you think I may be off on, or any kudos that you may want to give. I appreciate it all. So I'll catch you next time.